Hello and welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. I cannot believe it did not start with the audio that it was supposed to start with.
Welcome to Child Abuse
I
Awareness with
cannot
Darlene
believe
J.
it did
Clark.
not start with the audio that it was supposed to start with. Hello, welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tends to balance in favor of fair use. Remember to help me sign. Look over here to the left of the screen, to the middle screen right there. Practice that. Teach that to others. Thank you. In this study, we're also going to go over the different terminologies with child abuse awareness. Spiritual abuse is when someone uses God, the Bible, or their authority to gain control, which we're going to end up finding that out in this series here. We got to learn what is XA and the Lion's Den. What is it about? And the Chi Alpha Ministries. So we are still on the series of pastors and ministers who go ahead and mess with our kids, basically, and continue to let the pastors mess with our kids. When you speak up, speak out. Share screen right here. We're going to give XA and the Lions Den credit. They also have a forum here. There's a lot of different resources which they show, exposing spiritual and sexual abuse in Chi Alpha, where survivors speak, secrets unravel, and justice leads to healing. It says, read the stories. What happened? Chi Alpha Ministries, XA, under the Assemblies of God, has been at the center of the largest spiritual and sexual abuse scandal in modern campus ministry history. Countless survivors have come forward with stories of grooming, cover ups, and abuse, many involving Chi Alpha leaders and their mentor, registered sex offender Daniel Zavala, while national and district leadership ignored repeated warnings. Who's involved? The Chi Alpha and Assemblies of God scandal isn't just about sexual abuse on a number of campuses. It's also a scandal of enablers who twisted scripture and used psychological control to groom students, institutions that protected the brand over people, and leaders who turned a blind eye while calling it discipleship. It says the abusers. Here's a little list here. Daniel Savala, which that's him at the top left-hand screen. Chris Hundle, Hundl. If y'all want to, y'all may write these numbers down. Also, he is a Baylor campus pastor. Will Robinson, Corpus Christi pastor. Ryan Hofart, Texas A&M XA staff. William Johnson, Texas A&M XA. Chai. Oh. Otto Randolph, Texas A&M. Alexander Owen, Texas A&M. Let's go over here to the neighbors now. Here's some pictures of some of the neighbors right here. But we know the number of the abusers and the neighbors are very high. The neighbors, sorry. Eli Gautreaux is in Texas and New Mexico District Director. Eli Russell Stewart, Chi Alpha, Texas A&M, and MFB pastor. So I want to make sure that somebody said anything. Hi there, sis. Good to see you. Sorry I was a little late. Jason Bell. See, you can see it right beside it, what these people are. There's Josh Bell. He's Rice University pastor of that chapter. Daniel Young. He's a UTRGB pastor of that chapter. Johnny Hawk. He's a UTSA pastor of that chapter. Matt Hugendum. He's a U of H pastor. I think that's the University of Houston pastor. Kyle Oatmer, XA and Gateway Fellowship leader. Jonathan Bryce, XA and M. There's A and M, and most valuable F church elder, and many others. So let's go to over here and let's see the institutions here, okay? Are y'all ready for this? E. Scott Martin, former Chi Alpha National Director, forced retirement. Doug Clay, Assemblies of God. Malcolm Burley, former U.S. Missions Director, AG. Tim Barker, AG South Texas District. Galen Conch, AG North Texas District. Okay, here's what is spiritual abuse. Spiritual abuse is when someone uses God, the Bible, or their authority as a leader to control, manipulate, or silence others for personal or institutional gain. Spiritual abuse is the foundation for other kinds of abuses. It creates a false sense of guilt, a false sense of fear, a false sense of dependence, making victims easier to control. When leaders are unchecked and students are groomed to ignore their gut in the name of honor or discipleship. Excuse me. Remember, they were saying that you need to be more like God? Let us do this. When you can be more like Jesus, you can be closer to Jesus, when you let us touch you sexually. Get naked and do these sexual things. You're going to be more closer to Jesus. Excuse me. No, no, no. What liars, deceptors. Sexual abuse, any unwanted sexual behavior, verbal or physical, where consent is ignored or power is used to manipulate, pressure, or violate someone's boundaries. They actually told the boys nudity is unity. Can y'all believe that? This supposed Christian organization was just nudity is unity. Emotional abuse, using fear, guilt, or loyalty to exploit someone's emotions and isolate them from support. If you talk about this, you're hurting the body of Christ. Oh, if you cover it up, you're really hurting the body of Christ. What lies they tell, when they're saying, if you talk about this, you're hurting the body of Christ. No, you are hurting God's children. It's better to tie a millstone around your neck and throw yourself in the depths of the sea than it is to harm one of these little ones. So we got to remember that. Every time they try to toss something like that at you, go back and repeat that Matthew chapter 18, that verse. Mental abuse, manipulating someone's thoughts, perception of reality, or ability to think critically through gaslighting, shame, or information control. God wouldn't speak to you without my covering. Oh boy. But you're not God, you know. Um, you can have a one-on-one relationship, personal relationship with God. You don't need these other people to convince you that without them, you can't get close to God. That's a farce, okay? Physical abuse, using the body or physical presence to intimidate, harm, or punish, sometimes under the guise of discipline or authority, punching a student staff that did not obey. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Here's that Savala guy right there with the black hair. There's some of the people of Chi Alpha. The students, families, and churches are waking up to the long term trauma caused by control dressed up as discipleship. When institutions refuse to confront evil, exposure becomes necessary. We'll go back to the timeline in a few minutes. What can you do? This isn't just about awareness, it's about action. You can help expose the truth, and Ephesians 5:11 says, "Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them." Wow. This isn't a suggestion, it is a command from God. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. Thank you, Lord. If you've seen abuse in ministry, speak up. Silence protects predators. Students, parents, and pastors, it's on us to expose evil and hold Chi Alpha and the AG accountable. It's up to us to hold the other people that's trying to do harm to us or to a child. It's up to us to speak out what all's going on in your area towards religious ways or if you see another adult trying to harm a kid. Here's what you can do. Recognize it. Before you can stop abuse, you have to see it clearly, even when it's disguised as discipleship. What you can do? Learn the signs. Spiritual and sexual abuse often hides in plain sight. Trust your gut. Fear, confusion, or pressure are red flags. Talk to outsiders. Get perspective from people outside the organizational influence. Resist it. Toxic ministries thrive in silence. Shining light on abuse is not gossip, it's biblical. What you can do, share stories. Post survivor experiences on the Lions Den forum. It's got a forum on here. If y'all want to come in here and share your experiences, you could do it. You got a safe space to do it. Confront leadership. Ask tough and honest questions and don't accept silence. Post the truth. Use social media to expose what's happening on your campus. What you can do is report it locally. File a formal complaint with the university's Student Services Office. Call the police. All criminal behavior should be reported to the local law enforcement agency. And make sure that you keep documentation and who you talk to, the name of the officer, the time, the date, everything like that, please, because you keeping a record on it when they might say, well, you never came or you never told or anything like that. And you'll have the backup to go like that and prove. And then you end up saying how it was handled, for say, keep a journal of every time you do it. Keep it in a percent certain book, okay? Save evidence. Keep text, emails, and screenshots to support your case, like I was just saying, right? So here's a XA Lions Den, XA and the Lions Den. The Chi Alpha Spiritual and Sexual Abuse Forum. Tell your story. Engage on social. This is a rescue mission exposing darkness, demanding justice, and helping survivors heal with truth and courage. Next steps. Visit the forum. Share your story. Hear survivors and advocates speak freely. View the timeline. Every key moment, every breakthrough, all in order. Follow on social. Unfiltered truth. Relentless justice. Unafraid voices. Explore resources. It says coming soon. It'll be toolkits, guides, and support for healing. You're not alone. We're building a movement. This is where exposure leads to justice and where justice leads to healing. Join the conversation they can't control. Your story matters. Share it, speak out, and connect with others. For daily updates and encouragement, visit our Facebook page and be a part of the movement. This is another story on the Roy's Report and the Assemblies of God denomination's ongoing failure to read more. One of the first comments we got in 2022 on Reddit came from Olivia, one of our XA line standing men's boss. I can't even read that, his name right there. Can you see it? Chichivedian captured it perfectly when he spoke at the Southern Baptist Conference on abuse. He called out that their system was broken and that everything needed to be laid on the table to be looked at. Bodge is the attorney and former executive director of Grace, gives an address at the 2019 Caring Well Conference on winter inside the church and hope for spring. This is a portion of the speech where he calls out the system of the denomination broken. Hold on a minute. Let me go ahead and see if I could get that playing.
Point. And it's an important point, so please hear me out. It's not the abused and the wounded within our churches and outside of the churches who are in the most need of healing. It is the church. Let me start with this. Guys, your system's broken. The system of this denomination is broken. And I'm not going to make many friends by saying that, but it is. Imagine that the Southern Baptist Convention learned that in the past 20 years, over 700 babies had been murdered at Southern Baptist churches around the country. Imagine that people had been telling leadership about this for years, only to be ignored and sometimes vilified. Imagine that this horror then is written in a newspaper and suddenly the attention is brought to the forefront. What would happen? I think that either the entire denomination would implode, or at least its entire system would have to be dismantled. Leadership, beliefs, and polity. This is no different than what must be happening today as a result of the systemic sexual abuse within the SBC. Dismantling means that virtually everything has to be put on the table. Leadership. Guys, the good old boy system that all too often places a greater value on public and private relationships, book sales, and conference invitations than confronting evil and advocating for the abused, that's got to be done with. See, we can talk about abuse and we can talk about how horrific it is until it's some leader's friend in a church or in an organization, and suddenly now they're not talking about it. That's wrong. That's not what Jesus did. And
Now we're going to view the timeline, okay? Now we're going to view the timeline, okay? Let me make sure that I get the timeline first. Now we're going to view the timeline, okay? Let me make sure that I get the timeline first. Okay, so let me make sure that I get the timeline first. Okay, so let me Daniel Zavala, sex abuse and Chi Alpha Assemblies of God, alleged cover up, chronology summary. The Chi Alpha Spiritual and Sexual Abuse Forum. The topic is locked. No new replies will be accepted. This is May the 14th, 2023. Work in progress as we index information. DM the mod team if you have additional evidence to add. Executive summary. Daniel Sabata, 67-year-old, has been a traveling spiritual leader for 40 plus years, without official ties to any organization or church. Yet Chi Alpha Campus Ministries and the Assemblies of God have protected and promoted him to your youth and college kids for decades. Even after knowing about his status as a convicted and lifetime registered sex offender. Below, find a chronology of events with links to source documents as well as current allegations shared on the XA and the Lion's Den Survivor Advocate Forum, the forum. Daniel Zavala, sexual abuse and Chi Alpha alleged cover-up chronology. In the 1970s and 80s, Cletty Keith, senior pastor at Heritage Fellowship Church, led Daniel Zavala and Jacob Aranza to the Lord, exact date unknown. 1980, Daniel Zavala was a camp counselor at the Assembly of God camp, Pearl Wheat, now called Hill Country Camp in Kerrville. In 1989, University of Louisiana in Lafayette, under Eric and Annabelle Trio, yearbook names Daniel Zavala as Chi Alpha staff member and world traveled missionary. In the 90s, Kevin Gould introduces Daniel Zavala to Clover Pass Church. In 1991 and 92, Daniel Zavala was a camp counselor at an Assembly of God camp in Kerrville, Texas. Tim Parker was a youth pastor that took his group to this camp, where some of his youth group stayed in Daniel's cabin. Jacob Aranza, Brenda Daniels, recommends Daniel Zavala to Deerbrook Church Youth Advance in Columbus, Texas. Jacob told the youth pastor that Daniel was the holiest man alive. And put in mind, he's a registered sex offender, but he was told them that he was the holiest man alive. Daniel allegedly grooms and solicits Texas survivor. Let me see if I could get this on this. Let's see. This is. Can y'all see this? Okay. Ron Gideon. This is the thread to tell your story if you have been groomed or sexually abused by Daniel Zavala. It's essential to know that you are not alone. Speaking out about your experiences can be challenging, but it's an important step towards healing and creating awareness about the issue. By sharing your story, you can help prevent others from suffering the same pain and ensure that those responsible are held accountable. We encourage you to take the brave steps of telling your story, and we are here to support you through this process. Remember that your voice matters and your story deserves to be heard. Universities that have been involved with Daniel Savala are Sam Houston State University, Texas A&M University, University of Houston, Rice University, University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, Corpus Christi, Texas A&M, University of Texas San Antonio, and others. Here's about the holiest man alive, part one. I first met Daniel Savala at a youth advance in 1993. I never forget they introduced him as the holiest man alive. Who wouldn't want to get to know a guy like that? We became friends and spent countless hours hanging out at his house. In 1996, I attended Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, Texas, and Daniel told me I should get involved with a Christian ministry called Chi Alpha. He mentioned he used to work with a group in Louisiana. Later that year, I became friends with the Sam Houston pastor and suggested he needed to meet Daniel. Initially, he was reluctant, but Daniel told me to tell him to call the University of Louisiana at Lafayette campus pastor to vouch for him. Whatever was said, we were on our way to meet Daniel. I was a small group leader at that time, and as with most college boys, the topic of pornography and masturbation is talked about. But Daniel's advice concerning the subject was controversial. He told me that masturbation was okay and not to stress over it. Excuse me. He was the first guy to teach me how to delete my internet browser history when I would look at porn. He has a code word we used in public that encouraged me to masturbate. He called it relax. Hey, buddy, you seem stressed. You need to go relax, aka play with yourself. Have you been relaxing this week? Little did I know this was all part of the grooming process. I was a young, naive kid who didn't have much discernment. Besides, the holiest man alive can't be wrong, so I thought. That next semester, Daniel talked me out of a relationship I was in with a girl I wanted to marry. But because I trusted his spiritual advice, I figured he knew what was best for my life as a mentor and broke up with her. I found out later he told the other Chi Alpha guys that he gave me a choice to either break up with her or he could no longer have fellowship with me. That wasn't true. He used to call me and want play by play details of what we were doing. One night, I stayed at Daniel's house. I had a nightmare that he was sexually molesting me. I woke up in a panic because it felt so real, and I noticed him still asleep. Looking back, I believe God was warning me. Soon after that, we talked about a sensitive matter I was struggling with, and that's when he said on the phone, "You know what will help you? If you came over and we can masturbate together." I was completely caught off guard. I responded by saying, "Are you gay?" But I said it more colorfully. I rejected his advance and then told my youth pastor and another missionary friend. A friend, I might add, called out Daniel in the early 90s but was ridiculed because he had no evidence. Soon after, some Chi Alpha guys said Daniel is talking bad about you. Of course, in my naivety, I didn't understand why. I pretty much had a nervous breakdown and left school. I remember I met this Chi Alpha girl in my hometown, and she went back to Sam Houston and told one of the girls we hung out. Later that week, I got a call from Daniel, and he said, "You leave our girls alone." I'm like, "Your girls? What, are you in a cult now?" I wanted nothing more to do with Daniel. I never returned to Sam Houston. I kept in touch with some of the Chi Alpha guys through the years, but it wasn't until 2013 when all that changed. Excuse me, I'm sorry. There's the XA Lions Den. Jim Gills wrote, "Please contact attorney Stephen Diaz at 559 224 2131. Stephen is working with a major national law firm that won the court cases against the Boy Scouts. Do you hear this, Eric Kiss, if you're out there? Stephen is currently suing an AOG church in Riverdale, California for the exact same behavior. Expose RAG. Expose Riverdale Assembly of God. Hello, thank you for the contact. There was a number of attorneys on this case, but we are asking for anyone on the forum to first reach out to our lead attorney, Boz. To I don't know how to say his name. Okay, there's his name right there. I'll personally reach out to Mr. Diaz. Appreciate the info. Somebody can you please get a pen and paper where I can forward that number to my friend? I appreciate it. It is Stephen Diaz, 559 224 2131. Thank you. I'm sorry. I had to clear my throat a lot. Sorry. So Daniel allegedly grooms and or abuses multiple boys in Ketchikan, Alaska, at or in associated with Clover Pass Church. Daniel allegedly confesses to a Ruth youth group member. In 2010, first Alaska survivor reports to police. On July the 20th, 2010, Jonathan Bryce's bachelor party attended by Daniel Sabala, Eli Stewart, Will Robinson pending trial, Chris Houndel arrested for taking his sons to a grandfather figure in a sauna to perform sex acts, Johnny Hawk, and Kyle Volkmer. In 2012, Daniel's conviction, full court transcripts here, page references below, and other years found in these documents. On January 2012, Daniel was indicted by grand jury in Ketchikan, Alaska. On March 29th, Daniel released to custody of Daniel Young after Daniel Young posted $10,000 bail. On July the 17th, same year, Daniel found guilty of sexual abuse of minor in the third degree. On the 18th, in an email to Chi Alpha leaders, students, and other persons, Eli Stewart and Eli Gautreaux start false narrative about Daniel's conviction and solicit letters of leniency and sentencing. Urges people to state they are comfortable having your children at Daniel's house. Wow. If that is that a reprimand? They said they gave reprimands to him, right? Does that look like a reprimand, you all? In October 2012, Daniel attends Chi Alpha event. October 15th, 2012, Ketchikan Court is in receipt of letters in support of Daniel Sabala. In 2010, October, Daniel on campus at UTSA. In 2013, Daniel becomes a lifetime sex offender registered in Texas. On January 31st, 2013, Daniel's continued influence on students. On May the 4th, 2013, Ron Blumenkemper spoke with Jason Bell and Eli Stewart, warning them about Daniel's registered sex offender status. They informed Ron they knew and didn't believe Savala was guilty. Wow. See, they knew, but they didn't believe that he was guilty. They didn't believe the kids, and yet he was guilty in a court of law. June 2013, Ron Blumenkemper spoke with Tim Barker on the phone, warning Mr. Barker that Chi Alpha at Sam Houston has a registered sex offender being promoted within Chi Alpha. Ron followed up a few weeks later to learn that Mr. Barker had not followed up, but he expressed on the phone that he had forgotten. So, yeah, right. July the 18th, 2013, Longhorn Chi Alpha quotes Daniel in a now deleted Twitter post. On October 28, 2013, Daniel hosts Chi Alpha student leaders at his house after they knew he was a registered sex offender. They still let him do it. And he had that sauna. In 2014, February, Ryan Rickelson and Kristen Caldwell authored two Chi Alpha training documents titled Lordship and Love, which lists Daniel's website as a training resource. Can you believe that? As a training resource. February 10th, 2014, Daniel attends Chi Alpha staff meeting. February 25th, the same year, Daniel hosts the Chi Alpha student leader at his house. November 11th, Veterans Day, Daniel again hosts Chi Alpha Super Source staff interns at his house. J. Bell and K. Bell are Super Source leaders. In 2015, December 16, 2015, Eli Stewart takes students to Daniel's house to restore it. So he brings them kids there to work for the dude. In 2016, September, Title 9, Sam Houston State University investigation. This report addresses allegations of violations of the sexual misconduct policy of Sam Houston State University. Jasmine Rodriguez investigated these allegations. This report will determine whether it is more likely than not that there's been a violation of the sexual misconduct policy. Let's see what this has to say here, right? Let's see if we could get this to open. Yeah, it's got a redacted. It's got the name. It's got the witnesses. Investigative report summary. Office of the Equity and Inclusion, Title 9. Okay, this report addresses allegations of violations of the sexual misconduct policy of Sam Houston State University. Jasmine Rodriguez conducted the investigation into these allegations. This report will determine whether it is more likely than not that there has been a violation of the sexual misconduct policy. Let me see if, let's see, make sure it's nothing important. Okay. I'm sorry, I was getting the text message, just making sure that this is being seen with y'all. So here's a reporter, and of course it's redacted. Oh man. It wants to play around, don't it? Okay. So it's like, then there's a witness, then SHSU Chi Alpha Christian Fellowship pastor, No response, no response. Texas A&M University, Chi Alpha Pastor, no response. Excuse me, and another no response. Data reported incident, incidents reported such and such on August 18, 2016. History of the case is alleged a longtime Chi Alpha Christian Fellowship former. Oh, wow. Look how fast how big it's gone now. I'm sorry, it just keeps messing up. Please forgive me. Oh my goodness. Did y'all see them words right there? I could not believe the words I just saw. Oh my eyes. Okay. History of the case alleged a longtime Chi Alpha Christian Fellowship former affiliate Daniel Savala has been sexually abused in current Sam Houston State University Chi Alpha Christian Fellowship student members. Alleged violations: sexual assault means any form of non consensual sexual activity representing a continuum of conduct from forcible rape to non physical forms of pressure designed to compel individuals to engage in sexual activity against their will. Texas Penal Code. Examples of sexual assault include, but are not limited to, the following non consensual sexual activity: sexual intercourse, vaginal or anal, oral sex, rape or attempted rape, penetration of an orifice, anal, vaginal, oral, with a penis, finger, or other object, unwanted touching of, or sexual nature, use of coercion, manipulation, or force to make someone else engage in sexual touching, including touching the breast, chest, buttocks, and genitalia. Engaging in sexual activity with a person who is unable to provide consent, or knowingly transmitting a sexually transmitted disease to another. Standard of proof. In order to determine that a student employee has violated the sexual misconduct policy, the standard of proof required is preponderance of evidence. The evidence demonstrates that it's more likely than not that the conduct occurred. It said on Monday, August 29th, if did not want to formally file a complaint, he'll be listed as a witness for the course of the investigation summary. The following information will be gathered. Such and such stated he did not want to reveal his identity and would go by the name. He stated he was a former of Chi Alpha Christian Fellowship at Sam Houston State University. Stated he graduated. He stated he while attending, he first met Mr. Daniel Sabala during his freshman year and became friends with him in 2012. And such met Sabala through friends and would meet at Mr. Sabala's home in Houston, Texas, where they had small group fellowship and biblical based conversations. He would often make visits each month or twice a month for over the course of 4 to 5 years. When asked what other students went to visit Mr. Sabala with him, he stated he did not recall their names. Of course, he didn't. He probably said that because he didn't want to um, put them in danger, per se, right? Stated from 2012 to 2013, he made visits to Mr. Sabala's home alone. Stated his most recent visit to Mr. Sabala's home with SHSU students for the summer of 2015. There were about 3 to 8 Chi Alpha members. He declined to offer any names. Such and such was not aware of Mr. Sabala's criminal background, specifically a registered sex offender, until this week. He stated he found out through the Texas Department of Public Safety sex offender search. He prompted to serve Mr. Sabala after Mr. pseudonym name informed him earlier the week, possibly Tuesday, called to inform him he found out through an internet search Mr. Sabala was a child offender. Stated he did not believe it since Mr. Sabala is a much esteemed individual. Such and such stated one of Mr.'s friends received a text implicating Mr. Sabala was a child molester. Such and such did not provide Mr. Friend's name, went on to explain has a friend from Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania friend has a friend over his house who received a text message with information that Daniel Sabala was a molester. It stated that Mr. Pennsylvania friend might have been an SHSU student at one point. He does not recall what year. So it goes on and on, they deny any SHSU Chi Alpha member being at Mr. Savala's house when the abuse happened. So you're saying that there's actually been abuse, but then denies any member at his house when abuse happened? So you are at least admitting that there's been abuse, right? Summary of interviews. Mr. Savala stated he's never been a member of Chi Alpha Christian Fellowship at Sam Houston State University and denied he has ever been a Chi Alpha member at all. He also denied ever participating in a Chi Alpha function with SHSU. However, he recalls many years ago he gave his testimony about converting to Christianity at a Chi Alpha meeting at SHSU. He stated it was possibly more than 10 years ago. Mr. Zavala goes on to state he was arrested and convicted in 2011 for sexual assault of a child. He states he is currently on probation for the next 4 years. He is not allowed to leave the city, travel out of the U.S., consume alcohol or drugs, and not have any sexual contact with individuals under the age of 18. Mr. Zavala stated he completed 9 months in jail and was released in 2012. Mr. Zavala stated that the students have gone to his house, but he states he never invites them over. Wow. They just come over on their own just to talk. He stated they talk about theology, about life, and whatever they want to talk about. Wow. I think I heard enough about him because we already know what a bona fide liar he is, right? Sorry. So let's go back to over here. This is something else, isn't it? So then Oregon Chi Alpha leadership posts picture on Facebook having Jesus time with Daniel Sabella. In March 2018, ex-Chi Alpha small group leader sends email to E. Scott Martin. Daniel's conviction and ongoing involvement with Chi Alpha forum story here. Daniel attends church at Eli Stewart's Mountain Valley Fellowship in 2018. E. Scott Martin responds by email stating Chi Alpha leaders provided no indication of anything but positive interactions and no further actions will be taken. Because y'all forced, and you probably threw away the ones that did have negativity. In June 2018, Assemblies of God responds with, not our purview, and go to the authorities, and recommends contacting the very leaders protecting Daniel, Eli Stewart, El Gautreaux, other Chi Alpha Assembly of God leaders, Tim Barker, Don Wee, Greg Healy, Galen Clonch, Crystal Martin, and Esther Bevis looped in the via email. On January 2018, Eli Stewart calls Daniel Sabala an angel. Wow. Let's see if we could get to that right quick. Hold on. If it would show. Okay, so let me stop sharing for a minute. How about that? Well, he's saying that he's an angel. Wow.
And the Lord brought this man, this angel. Many of us still believe he's an angel. Mary still thinks he's an angel. And this man came in and he came to my church and he got up in front of everybody and he started to sing, his mouth opened, And the first time I heard him, I just cried because I saw something I had never seen before. I saw a soul in communion with its maker, and it marked me. I was captivated. I couldn't take my eyes off his mouth. It was like heaven was open. It's so mystical and weird, but something happened. And he played guitar and he sang this song. He didn't even need a microphone. He was so loud. It was like heaven met me, and I was like transported to another realm. And he was playing guitar, and I was like, I got to get one of those.
Did y'all see that? Did y'all see the things right here? Let me go back to it. Zavala gets 90 days for abuse. Former youth minister pleads to sex abuse. Okay, it's going on to further.
It was like heaven was open. It's so mystical and weird, but something happened. And he played guitar and he sang this song. He didn't even need a microphone. He was so loud. It was like heaven met me, and I was like transported to another realm. And he was playing guitar, and I was like, I got to get one of those.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was getting
and
the
the Lord
text
brought
messages,
this.
making sure that this is being seen with y'all. So here's a reporter, and of course it's... See if y'all could hear that. Could y'all hear that okay? Oh, man. It wants to play around, don't it? See if it did. Okay. So it's like the authorities and recommends contacting the very leaders. Okay, so let me go try that again.
Man, this angel, many of us still believe he's an angel. Mary still thinks he's an angel. And this man came in and he came to my church and he got up in front of everybody and he started to sing. His mouth opened. And the first time I heard him, I just cried because I saw something I had never seen before. I saw a soul in communion with its maker, and it marked me. I was captivated. I couldn't take my eyes off his mouth. It was like heaven was open. It's so mystical and weird, but something happened. And he played guitar and he sang this song. He didn't even need a microphone. He was so loud. It was like heaven met me, and I was like transported to another realm. And he was playing guitar, and I was like, I got to get one of those.
And let me go back to share again. Okay. Wow, that video, oh man, it makes me sick, don't it, y'all? In 2019, Eli and Mandy Stewart take Daniel to Colorado for Chi Alpha Leadership Retreat. In 2020, Eli Stewart takes Daniel to campus, promotes him to students. Wow. In 2022, Jonathan Bryce details mentorship, discipleship, and ongoing relationship with Papa Daniel in a Chi Alpha podcast episode. Two separate podcasts mentioned Daniel here. In 2023, April 2023, Survivor Advocate website, XA, and the Lion's Den launches. Thank y'all for doing that. Thank you for launching this Lion's Den website. Thank you, thank you, thank you for getting out here and exposing this. April 23rd, 2023, Eli Stewart, MVF, make a statement on the post and the full audio. Let me see if it's going to play it. I don't really know if it's going to go there or not. Okay, let me see. stop this for a second. Okay, then stop mine.
Last week, Kirk preached a wonderful message, and we talked about a punch you didn't see coming. And so the next little bit is not a great church service. What I'm about to say is not a great church service, except it's important that the church see us walk through this. And so there's a lot going on, so I'm just going to read a little bit, and then I'm going to pass it on to the board and elders. A major influence in my life has turned out to be a master manipulator. We have received major allegations that he was a wolf who was preyed on the innocent, pure-hearted, and trusting. Recent testimonies have revealed this man, Daniel Savala, to be an active predator. May the full truth come quickly and the victims find full healing. On Monday, I was notified of 3 credible accusations against Mr. Savala that quickly led to a total severance of relationship for me and every staff member. As the week has unfolded, our family and staff has found ourselves living in what seems to be a nightmare. Along with many shocking and heartbreaking confessions that are surfacing online, there are also a number of grievances against me, Eli Stewart, as pastor of Mountain Valley, and grievances against a number of families on our staff, and many grievances for CAF at large. The board, elders, and the North Texas Assemblies of God and I believe that me taking a leave of absence so a full and thorough investigation can be conducted is in the best interest of our church, our churches in North Texas, and our church family. This could take quite some time, but for the Lord's sake, the purity of His church's sake, we believe this to be the best and necessary course of action. I am relieved to have a great board, elders, and small group leaders that are here to care for this church, and of course the Holy Spirit. And I'm really grateful that there's a wonderful congregation that's hungry for God, for them to care for. If ever there was a time for our church to be a church that clings to the Bible, it is now. Amen. And if ever there was a time to cling to the God of that Bible, it is now. Amen.
I was trying to look at some Bible verses last night and this morning, and I was reading verses like Romans 8:28, and we know for those who love the Lord, all things work together for good. I read Psalms 118:24, and it says, "This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." And when I came through the gate this morning, it was Ryan Hoffer's message. But I had to ask myself, as I'm looking at those, I was thinking, well, do I really believe these promises that God has given us? Do we believe those promises that God has given us in this moment? In this moment of angst in our church, some chaos that may ensue. So it's stated by Eli. He will be taking a leave of absence. And he states it, it's for the church, for the purity of the church. But I'm going to go a step further, and I'm going to tell you that we as a board and elders feel that Eli needs time to grieve. He needs time to be with his family. He needs time to, this is going to be important for his spiritual growth, for his time to come and understand what's happening. And I want him to know, and I want y'all to know, that despite that, I and the board and the elders are going to walk with him through this. We're not going to, he's not alone. We're not leaving him. So I'm sure that there's a lot of questions that are going to come from this. And I have a lot of questions. What's going to happen over the next few weeks, maybe months? So let me state a few things. First of all, we're continuing as a church. We're going nowhere. The Lord's not done here. So we're going to continue as a church. So and what I mean by that is we're going to continue seeking the Lord. We're going to continue seeking lost souls. So next week at 10 a.m., we're going to be right here. We're going to have worship. We're going to have a coffee break. We're going to have somebody bring the message. We don't know exactly what that looks like just yet, but that's what's going to happen. So what's going to happen in the future? That's the next question. What's going to be the future of this church? Well, as was stated, we're going to get an independent third-party group of people, investigators, whatever you want to call them. We haven't settled what that is, but we're going to get somebody else outside of this church to come in and evaluate and try to understand and help us understand what happened. And so that we can make good decisions outside of just us trying to make the decision. We think that's going to be important for everybody, for our congregation, for Eli, for the board, for the elders, that we understand what happened. In that, it may take some time, and we need to be patient. We need to be patient with this process. So our church was formed as a full gospel, Jesus Christ believing church that is mission minded and loves the Lord, and that's who we are. And that's who we're going to continue to be. We're not going to become something else now. Eli sort of stated it. If you were here last week, you'll know we have been punched in the face. Okay, and the church is staggering a little bit right now, and we're trying to get our balance, and we're trying to become disoriented from this announcement that was just made to us, and this whole thing that as you can tell, is broken in a week. I mean, in 1 week, this thing has, and every day it's been a different thing that we've had to contend with. We all want clarity in what's happened and how it happened. But that clarity is going to take some time because we don't have all the information just yet. Okay? And so we'll need patience as this comes out. So as
I got tired of hearing that because it's like the more I hear, the more sick to my stomach I got. Because hearing that because it's like. Did y'all agree with that? That y'all were tired of hearing it too? Because we don't know what's. This is really bad. A lot of things that are going on here. And then the 23rd MBF website announced putting Eli Stewart, Jonathan Bryce, and Elder Nicholas on admin leave, claims to have hired the third-party investigator. They claimed it, okay? And then in May the 7th, 2023, Gateway Fellowship Church making a statement, Kyle Boltmer resigns and recommends others to leave, video written statement. Then May the 1st, the student paper, The Battalion, breaks the story. And then May the 2023, National News Media, Christianity Today, and Roy's Report published stories. Then May the 12th, 2023, Eli Gautreaux and Johnny Hawk placed on leave per email from Tim Parker. By 24-23, ex-Baylor Chi Alpha minister Chris Hundle arrested for taking his sons to Houston and watching them perform sexual acts in a sauna with a sex offender who was his spiritual mentor and a grandfather to his sons. So there's talking about Sevilla again, right? Possibly. By 24-23, Roy's Report publishes article Dismissal of Eli Stewart. 25th, Roy's Report publishes article tying Chris Huddle to Daniel Savala, Eli Stewart et al. June the 2nd, 2023, Daniel Savala arrested. That's with the Post and Public Record. Then in 6 June 2023, Jason Bell and Daniel Young placed on leave per email from Tim Barker. On the 6th, 2023, Clover Pass Community Church Board member Chris John in Ketchikan, Alaska, arrested for sexual abuse of a minor. On October 16, 2021, Waco Tribune reports additional charges against Daniel by Houston Police Department. And 2024 is coming soon. We fell behind on some updates. In 2025, The Great Escape, how the AG is cutting loose for Chi Alpha. Video update from Alex Rodriguez. So let's go over here to this right quick. Oh, it said a site can't be reached. We tried. We tried to get there. And then there's this other where some XA leaders claim Daniel's influence was limited and that leaders distanced themselves in 2012. However, UTSA calls Daniel a friend and that Daniel has had a huge impact. Sam Houston website quotes Daniel in their mission statement. Sam Houston lists Daniel's website as a primary resource. Jonathan Bryce credits Daniel's influence in Chi Alpha podcast. I got a text from him yesterday, is what he said. Okay, let me go over here and show y'all that mission statement that they were talking about. Okay, it says, Daniel Savala actually written this, the mission statement. We must never underestimate the potential of youth. Throughout history, God has called the young to rise up and change the world for the gospel. Well, you know, he didn't call you. We know that. Sorry. Okay. So let's go back to this other place now. So when we go over here and we actually read the stories, right? It's really sickening and disheartening. There's the chronological summary, the official Chi Alpha Lion's Den and Men updates in the local and national news, the answers room, unfiltered question and answers, uplifting testimonials, podcasts, and interviews, legislative and legal case updates with John Doe 1 and 2 versus Assemblies of God, Texas A&M Brian, Alex, Bo, William criminal trials, Texas laws that need reform, Wrestling Lines, Ron's personal journal. Sorry. The Roast of the Righteous, Getting the Help You Need, Chi Alpha Leaders and Missionaries. See, Deconstruction, Chi Alpha Fundamentals, Getting the Help You Need, Finding a Counselor, Getting the Help You Need, Exiting Chi Alpha and Find a Job, Getting the Help You Need, Getting Your Church out of the Assemblies of God. Then there's Chi Alpha Campus Ministries in Texas. This is very important to know. So, Chi Alpha, grooming and sexual abuse. This category is for anyone who's experienced grooming or sexual abuse by Daniel Sabala or other leaders in Chi Alpha Campus Ministries. Share your story and receive support from others who have been through similar situations. Chi Alpha Spiritual Abuse. This category is intended for Chi Alpha students and leaders who have encountered spiritual abuse from Chi Alpha leadership. You can recount your experience and attain comfort for those who have faced similar situations. Sam Houston, Chi Alpha Spiritual and Sexual Abuse Stories. The category is for all Sam Houston Chi Alpha students and leaders who experience grooming or sexual abuse by Daniel Sabala or other Chi Alpha leadership. Share your story, receive support from others who have been through similar situations. Chi Alpha Texas A&M College Station Spiritual and Sexual Abuse Stories. This category is for all Texas A&M College Station Chi Alpha students and leaders who experience grooming or sexual abuse by Daniel Zavala or other Chi Alpha leadership. Share your story and receive support from others who had been through similar situations. Then it's UTSA Chi Alpha. This category is for all UTSA Chi Alpha students and leaders who experience grooming or sexual abuse by Daniel Zavala or other Chi Alpha leadership. Share your story and receive support from others who have been through. Then there's the University of Texas Rio Grande, basically about the same stuff. Texas A&M at Corpus Christi, Chi Alpha, current Chi Alpha and Assembly of God staff, ministers respond, national. All over the United States, there's the different ones all right here. Leaders that's needing accountability. So Tim Barker, AOG South Texas District Superintendent. Leaders bear the responsibility of reaching the ultimate verdict. These individuals were responsible for granting Daniel ongoing access to susceptible individuals within the Assembly of God churches and secular university campuses. Let's see. I tried to put it there. There we go. Update. Hill Country Camp in Caribou reportedly up for sale. Started by XA Lionsden and Tim Barker, AOG, South Texas District Superintendent. Update. Hill Country Club in Caribou reportedly up for sale during the recent South Texas Regional Tour Conference. Superintendent Tim Barker told attendees at Hill Country Club Camp. Then there's South Texas Assemblies of God Ministries documents. It's a repository. Other pastors in South Texas. South Texas District Council Tim Baker spends a day with some STX's best XA leaders. Tim Barker's 2014 thoughts on autopsy of a deceased church. Tim Barker says mentors lead by example. Too bad you couldn't lead by example, huh? So then there's the Alaska story. This one is the one with Daniel Zavala in Alaska, okay? I could click on it and get it there. Okay. So it says Clover Pass church member taken into custody started at Red Sky in Alaska versus Daniel Zavala. It's a very sad news to share. Today we learned that Clover Pass Community Church member Chris John was arrested for sexual abuse of a minor in Ketchikan, Alaska. A den of destruction started by Reginald Alaska versus Daniel Zavala. One of the victims of CPC informed me of this site, and as the news of Eli Stewart, the AOG, and XA organizations began to unfold, I thrown back into the dark memories of my past. Grooming and sexual abuse of a minor from a religious teacher. Let's see what this has. Daniel used to come to Alaska to help with the youth at the church where I went to youth group and also where I went to elementary school grades. Both are six. I initially was introduced to him when he was guest speaker at school chapel when I was in fourth and fifth grade. He was very highly esteemed by the leadership in the school and church. Everyone put him on a pedestal as being some kind of religious guru. Unfortunately for me, I believed them and thought he must be good despite the things he did to me behind closed doors. I was about 10 years old the first time I was invited for a sleepover with Daniel in the church building. I remember it was quiet, the honor to be invited. At some point in the evening, he got naked and started masturbating in front of me. I was so scared and nervous that I hid under my sleeping bag. And then when he had finished, he kept asking me to do it as myself. I remember telling him no, and he put a massive guilt trip on me that eventually I tried also, at which point he praised me. This was the beginning of many years of abuse. Wow. So let's go in here and remember that we need to be like minded, look at the different stories in here. It just keeps going and on. I heard you are like the Apostle Paul, started by Red Sky in Alaska versus Daniel Zavala. There's some of my experiences of Clover Pass Community Church. Kevin Gould invited Daniel Zavala in the spring of '91. Wow, it just keeps going on and on. See, a story of sexual abuse for church leaders. That's him as well. I want to say, oh sure, yeah, yeah. Let me send you an invite, okay? Yeah, let me send you an invite here. Okay. Copy. Paste. Okay, can you click on the link? I think it's rather disgusting, don't y'all? So please go and sponsor the lines, the XA and the lines den, because they're doing their best to keep everyone aware of what's going on. Gotta make sure to bring this up a little more. Okay. I mean, okay, let me admit. Hold on a minute. Let me get to my phone. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's see. I don't know how to go about doing that. See, because you're already a man in here, so you should still be a man in there too. Under the same thing. Because I thought you're already an admin, aren't you? Does anybody else got anything they'd like to discuss about this matter? And also, I see right here it's got started by Simon in Alaska versus Daniel Savella. So let me open up that stream and that page, and I'll share this with y'all. Said identity destruction. Clover Pass church member taken into custody. Identity destruction, grooming, and sexual abuse of a minor from a religious leader. Culpability, accountability, and leadership. A response to recent post. I'm so very sorry. Started by Lost and Found in Alaska versus Daniel Savala. To the Ketchikan victims. Since learning of the site, reading the testimonials that have been brought forward, and truth confirmed, my heart is broken over the realization, the magnitude. But leaders refuse to lead. Where's Clover Pass leadership? Cult under Kevin Gould's pastoralship. I heard you are like the Apostle Paul. Eli was primed to be abused. Former Pastor Kevin Gould's statement. What are you guys doing? John Doe having sex. Daniel Savala. Started by Speak Truth in Alaska by Daniel Savala. I wish I'd been more vocal back then, but I think my brain refused to believe what I was hearing. I 100% would be willing to testify regarding the one event that sticks out in my head glaringly. The story of sex abuse from a church leader. Cost of silence. Let's see what happens here when I click on this, and I hope it will let me go there. Okay, here we go. This is this one boy's story. This is Simon. The first time I met Daniel was at Clover Pass Church in Ketchikan, Alaska. I believe it was the summer of 1990 or 91. I'm not sure the exact year, but I was about 13 years old, and it was Daniel's first summer visiting Clover Pass Church. I had been in some trouble at school, and my parents had gone to our pastor, Kevin Gould, to seek some direction. Kevin advised them to allow Daniel to spend time discipling me. My first memory of meeting Daniel, we were riding in a car together alone. An awkward silence filled most of the ride. I was shy at that age and had never met this guy before. But at one point, he looked over at me from the driver's seat, breaking the silence, asking me, "Do you masturbate?" I was shocked and filled with panic by this question. There was a lot of shame associated with sexual sin at the time. I immediately said no and looked away, hoping that was the end of it. A moment passed and Daniel shot back, "Yes, you do." I looked back at him and he was smiling, and I replied with shame and embarrassment, "I do." I had never told anyone this before in my life, and now I had just told a stranger, a minister. Daniel, still smiling, replied, "It's okay. I do too, and I don't think it's a sin." The torment and shame the church attached to normal biological function was suddenly gone. That was it. The moment when Daniel had me. At that moment, all the shame put on me by my religious upbringing, the hours and hours of sermons condemning the man who fell into sexual sin, the guilt of my failed attempts as a 13-year-old boy trying to live up to the idea of godly purity and falling short every time, all that fell off me. I didn't have to feel bad anymore. Daniel had offered me a lifeline. an alternative to the pain of condemnation I walked around with every day. And what he's saying must be true. He was in church leadership, vouched for by the pastor of my church and my parents. I didn't have to feel bad anymore. That was a hook. I swallowed. That is when Daniel had me. I spent days with Daniel that summer. He had an office at the church tucked out of the way where he lived. It was only a 5-minute walk from my house. We would sit up there and talk about books written by religious authors or sometimes just sit and read together. This is how it was that first summer. Nothing overtly inappropriate happened, other than a grown man spending the majority of his time with a 13-year-old boy. The following summer, Daniel returned, and at this point, the youth group which he was leading had begun to grow in size. Daniel had also been given a cabin to live in on the property of an older couple in the church. It was this cabin where Daniel would start to invite young boys over to stay the night. The first night I stayed at the cabin, I had to be driven and dropped off. I did not drive at the time. The one very vivid memory I have of that night was when it was time to go to bed. There's only one bed in the bedroom. No preparations had been made for me. So I found some blankets and began setting up to sleep on the living room couch. Almost immediately, Daniel began to become agitated and argumentative as to why I would not just sleep with him in the bed. I'm not sure why, but I rejected him at first and lay down on the couch. And he went into the bedroom, leaving the door open. That was when it really got weird. I remember, even at that age, thinking what came next to be very odd. From the bedroom, he began to yell and throw a fit, pleading and begging for me to come sleep with him. I remember it well. The only way I can think of describing it is when a child doesn't get their way and throws a tantrum. I had never seen a grown man act this way before, especially a man of God. And it went on for seemed like forever. Eventually I gave in, got up, and went lay in bed with him. I remember sleeping above the sheet, which he also gave me a hard time for, but eventually let it go. We laid in bed and read for a while. He liked to try and tickle in bed, when at the time seemed to be harmless play. I ended up spending many nights at the cabin, and several times my best friend at the time, I'll call him Leonard Nimoy, would come with me. Leonard and I were neighbors all growing up, our houses just a minute's walk apart. I remember Leonard was excited to meet the guy I had spent so much time with. Neither of us had many friends at that age, and like me, I think he just wanted to feel like he was a part of a group. We would see Daniel speak in front of our congregation at church and to the youth group, getting so much respect from the adults, but then we would get access to him alone, hanging out with him at the cabin. I guess it made us feel special. Daniel would tell us at the cabin that most of the people at our church were just a bunch of phonies, faking their godliness. Goodies is what he would call them. He constantly reminded us that we were a part of his group and that we were the goodies, and that the goodies were not welcome. Leonard and I spent many days over at the cabin just hanging out. Sometimes Daniel would take us shopping or to eat at a restaurant. He always said he had money to spend on us because he was a line item in the Clover Pass budget, and Kevin took care of him. Daniel's words, not mine. At the cabin, we would mostly just hang out and goof around at the point. Not a lot of reading anymore. Masturbation was always a main point of conversation, and the common humor had become very sexual in nature. Jokes you would maybe expect in a high school locker room, but not from a minister with 13-year-old boys. Daniel also liked to play the game of pantsing. He would sneak up behind you and pull down your pants. The natural response for us boys would be to quickly pull your pants back up. I remember that during this time, Leonard came up behind Daniel and pulled his pants down. Daniel just stood there, fully exposed for what seemed like forever, just staring at us, smiling. It wasn't until it got awkward that he finally laughed and slowly pulled his pants up. Daniel began asking Leonard and me to stay the night at the cabin, one at a time, so he could better disciple us. It wasn't more than a month or so of this when I began to see less and less of my best friend Leonard. His personality changed from what once was a very friendly, tender-hearted boy to something angrier. Eventually, he stopped coming around, and I was told by Daniel that Leonard was no longer part of our group. He was backslidden and bitter, a phrase I would continue to hear over the years by Daniel and other church leaders to describe people that didn't fall in line. I miss my friend, but was told a man of God doesn't spend time with backsliders and let them go. Sound like you're a backslider yourself, dude. Really bad. I wish I could say I went after my friend to try and reconcile and find out what had been bothering him, but to my deepest regret, I didn't. I let him face whatever was bothering him alone. Not too many years later, I attended his funeral. He took his own life. That was how it was under Daniel for the next 5 or 6 years. Young boys would come in and out of his life. Some would become true loyalists. Others would just leave and be labeled backslidden and bitter or goodies. I had become one of the boys that others in the youth group looked up to because I had spent so much time with Daniel. They saw me with him and wanted to do the same. I had visited him in Houston before at his house and had traveled with him on mission trips. Through people that vouched for Daniel, he had unfettered access to as many boys as he wanted. Another activity was that Daniel would invite us boys to the sauna with him. We would get up early in the morning around 5 a.m., I believe, and go to the public swimming pool at the high school when it first opened. The public pool also had a sauna in the same building. The reason for getting there early was that one of the sauna rules was that you had to keep your shorts on, no nudity in the sauna. Daniel would tell all of us boys that the proper way to sauna was in the nude. I do understand this, in fact, common practice in many cultures, but not appropriate in this instance. Nevertheless, Daniel would instruct us to wear our shorts into the sauna, all looking normal for the lifeguard, then take them off once in the sauna. But keep your towel close in case someone walked in, snaking around, defying authority other than Daniel, white lies, and rule breaking seemed to be encouraged by Daniel. It always felt like the rules didn't apply to you when you were with Daniel. This was all enticing to young boys. Over the next few years, Daniel built a group of much younger boys around him. He and I stayed friends, but I saw each other much less. I was beginning to mature in my mid to late teens, had another group of friends, and had a girl I was spending my time with. I eventually moved out of Ketchikan and got married and just talked to Daniel once in a while on the phone. I wasn't until my mid-20s when I had a falling out with him. He called me on the phone and asked me to plan and help finance a birthday packaging trip for Eli Stewart and some other boys to Denali National Park. I was not in a solid place financially at the time, and this would have been a difficult task to pull off. I did work on it for about a week and crunched numbers and researched travel, but due to everyone who would be coming being scattered all over the country, the cost and logistics didn't make it possible for me. When I called and told him the news, he threw a tantrum, not that much different than the one he threw at the cabin that night I wouldn't sleep in his bed. I apologized to him, hung up, and never spoke to him again. I hadn't given too much thought again until I got a call from a friend telling me of Daniel's arrest in Ketchikan for the sexual abuse of minors. I didn't believe the news at first, but once I revisited those memories with the mind's eye of an adult, it all made sense. After a couple more calls to old friends that were close to Daniel at that time, it was confirmed. I was heartbroken and engaged at the same time. Those was the man that led me through the sinner's prayer to salvation, gave me my first study Bible. My entire worldview fell apart that day. To this day, I still have so many questions. Where were the adults when this was happening? Where was church leadership? Where was law enforcement? How was Daniel able to walk in and hurt so many young boys for so long? Why was an unmarried 30-plus-year-old man spending all his time with young boys and not questioned? This must have seemed unnatural to some people. Why did they stay silent? People, watch your children. Don't let your guard down just because you're in a religious institution. Always question authority. Don't stay silent. We are only beginning to calculate the enormous human cost of that silence. It is silence which gives monsters free pass to walk among us. It grieves me knowing what I know now, and that it was happening right out of my sight. Some of the victims being friends and family. Why did I not see Daniel for what he was? Why didn't some of the over sexualized situations I did experience not set off more of a red flag at the time? Why didn't he do more to me? Why was I spared the worst? I don't have an answer to these questions other than I was a child. Daniel built an enticing belief system, a cult, a question by anyone, and once you swallowed that belief, he had you. Daniel was a man of God. Leadership held him up as the celibate saint who could do no wrong. So much for discernment. All right. I think we did pretty good in sharing this story today. Let's see what you. It's just I can't listen to this disgusting counter anymore. Okay, lots of love. Gmail is still the same. Okay, I thought you're still an admin, but if it's the same Gmail, you should still be the same, right? Let's see. We'll talk about more of that in a little while, okay? I want to thank everybody for coming. Thanks for the support. Please hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, and share. This is very important that we get these culprits